Welcome to our Middle East briefing program. Today, we have some compelling stories lined up for you. First, a Westel area man, Wayne Hamby, has been sentenced to 40 years in prison for the rape of a 12-year-old girl. The sentencing, which took place on June 21, was emotional and brief, with Hamby making no statement as he received the maximum sentence to be served at 100%. This case has left the community in shock and serves as a grim reminder of the severity of such crimes. Next, we turn our attention to Iran, where presidential candidates Masoud Pezeshkian and Saeed Jalili have been accusing each other of lacking plans or experience ahead of the country's runoff election. In a heated debate, Pezeshkian questioned Jalili's ability to lead, while Jalili defended his record, including his role as a top nuclear negotiator. Both candidates have laid out their visions for the future, focusing on improving conditions for marginalized groups and addressing low voter turnout. Lastly, a study by Global Witness has uncovered that 10 bot-like accounts have had an oversized influence on the general election. These accounts, which have posted over 60,000 times since May 22, have spread harmful content, including conspiracy theories and hate speech. The investigation has raised concerns about the impact of such accounts on public opinion and electoral integrity. Please stay tuned for the detailed coverage of these stories. Yahoo US reports that Wayne Hamby, convicted of raping a 12-year-old girl, received the maximum 40-year prison sentence. During the emotional sentencing hearing, Hamby remained silent. Judge Gary McKenzie justified the severe sentence due to the case's circumstances. The prosecution highlighted the trauma inflicted on the victim and the abundant proof of Hamby's crime. The victim's impact statement, read in court, detailed the lifelong scars left on her family. Hamby's defense argued for leniency, citing his PTSD and brain injuries from military service, but the judge emphasized Hamby's role as an authority figure in committing the crime, leading to the maximum sentence. Associated Press covers the heated debate between Iranian presidential candidates Masoud Pezeshkian and Saeed Jalili ahead of the runoff election. Pezeshkian criticized Jalili's lack of practical experience, while Jalili defended his hardline stance and past roles, including top nuclear negotiator. The debate touched on the nuclear deal, economic growth, and foreign policy, with Jalili advocating for strength and broader international relations, and Pezeshkian promoting engagement and lifting sanctions. Both candidates addressed the needs of various societal groups and the importance of voter turnout, reflecting on the historically low participation in the first round of voting. The Independent reveals a study by Global Witness showing that bot-like accounts on social media platform X have significantly influenced the UK general election by spreading disinformation and hate speech. These 10 accounts, identified by their prolific posting and other characteristics, have shared over 60,000 posts since May, reaching an estimated 150 million views. The posts contain extreme content, including Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and climate change denial. The study highlights the outsized impact of these accounts on public discourse and the need for social media companies to clean up their platforms to protect democratic processes. Yahoo US, Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers missed the team's mandatory minicamp due to a pre-planned trip to Egypt, which he had arranged during his recovery from an Achilles injury. Despite his absence, Rodgers had attended all Phase 1 voluntary workouts and most of Phase 2 and organized team activities. The Jets were aware of his trip when the minicamp dates were announced and understood its significance to Rodgers. Although his absence was unexcused, the team and his teammates were not concerned about its impact on the upcoming season, recognizing Rodgers' commitment during voluntary sessions. The minicamp consisted of 2 practices similar to the OTAs Rodgers attended, and he is expected to return for the start of training camp, showing no signs of his previous injury. South China Morning Post, Belgrade police arrested a man carrying a crossbow near a police station, just days after a similar attack at the Israeli embassy. The man, who claimed he was being pursued by the mafia and secret services, was found with a crossbow, 7 arrows, several knives, and firecrackers in his backpack. His motives are under investigation, and a search of his apartment is ongoing. This incident follows a crossbow attack on a special police unit member outside the Israeli embassy, which resulted in the officer shooting and killing the attacker. The officer, who was shot in the neck, is recovering after surgery. The assailant in the embassy attack was identified as a Serbian convert to Islam, and his wife is being questioned by police. South China Morning Post, tensions between Chinese and Philippine vessels in the South China Sea have heightened, drawing international attention and challenging Beijing's preference for bilateral dispute resolution. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has shifted policy to counter China's maritime assertiveness, strengthening alliances with the US, Japan, Australia, India, and the EU. The US and its allies have condemned China's actions, and the South China Sea dispute has been a focal point in international security discussions. Recent confrontations, including a collision between Chinese and Philippine vessels, have raised concerns about unintended conflict. Despite the rising tensions, experts note that all parties are aware of the red lines to avoid severe injuries or war. The situation remains volatile, with China adapting to international pressure and criticism while balancing domestic nationalist expectations. Yahoo US, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that the end phase of the war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip is approaching. Speaking at a reception for cadets of the National Defense Academy in Jerusalem, Netanyahu stated, "We are moving towards the end of the phase of dismantling Hamas' terror army." Netanyahu's optimism follows his visit to the Gaza division in Rafah, where he observed significant progress. Since Hamas' mass attack on October 7, Israel's bombardment and ground offensive have resulted in the deaths of at least 37,765 Palestinians and injuries to another 86,429, according to the Palestinian Health Authority. The offensive aims to dismantle the last major Hamas combat units, though smaller militant groups remain active. Despite the conclusion of intense fighting, Israeli troops are expected to maintain strategic positions, particularly along the Philadelphia corridor near the Egyptian border. South China Morning Post: The United States' strategy to dominate the Indo-Pacific is increasingly complicated by a military pact between Russia and North Korea. This agreement, ostensibly to bolster Russia's defense procurement for its invasion of Ukraine, positions Russia as a significant player in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Despite the lack of a formal tripartite agreement, the individual defense pacts between North Korea, China, and Russia hint at future coordinated efforts. Russia's proposal for joint naval drills with China during a visit to Pyongyang underscores this potential cooperation. Recent joint drills and Russia's increased naval presence, including anti-submarine exercises in the South China Sea, signal a strategic shift. This growing alliance could place U.S. bases in Japan and South Korea in jeopardy, potentially leading to catastrophic human tolls in the event of conflict. The U.S. might need to rethink its approach, as its current policies seem to have driven its adversaries into a tighter alliance, challenging its dominance and straining its resources across multiple fronts. South China Morning Post: During UN talks in Qatar, Taliban authorities were urged to include women in public life, a stance defended by UN Under-Secretary General Rosemary DiCarlo despite criticism over the exclusion of civil society groups from the discussions. The two-day meeting, the third of its kind in Qatar, marked the first time Taliban representatives participated since their return to power in 2021. The talks focused on increasing engagement with Afghanistan and addressing economic and counter-narcotics issues. The Taliban's strict interpretation of Islam has led to what the UN describes as gender apartheid, prompting international calls for change. U.S. officials emphasize that Afghanistan's economy cannot thrive while half its population's rights are ignored. Despite these discussions, Amnesty International warned that conceding to the Taliban's conditions might legitimize their oppressive policies. The Taliban, however, reiterated their commitment to Islamic law and called for an end to sanctions, arguing that Afghans have suffered enough from foreign invasions and interference. Russia, maintaining an embassy in Kabul, suggested it might lift its own sanctions, recognizing the Taliban as the de facto authorities. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports that the 2024 Miles Franklin Literary Award shortlist has been unveiled, featuring 6 authors competing for Australia's most esteemed literary accolade. The contenders include previous winner Alexis Wright, former shortlistee Gregory Day, and 3 debut novelists, Hossein Askari, Sonia Rushdie, and another unnamed debutante. This year's list is notably diverse, with 4 writers of color, continuing a trend of increasing representation. If Craig, Rushdie, or Wright triumph, it will mark the 8th consecutive win for a female author, a significant shift since the male-dominated 2011 shortlist. The literary panel, including Claire Nichols, Sarah Lestrange, Kate Evans, and Declan Fry, observed the uniformity in high literary quality across the shortlist, a departure from the usual mix of literary and populist fiction. The shortlisted works, mostly from smaller publishers, are praised for their experimental forms and deep thematic explorations, such as time, memory, and displacement. Wright's Praiseworthy is highlighted for its complex portrayal of a family grappling with colonization's impacts, using rich, paradoxical language. Other notable mentions include Jen Craig's Wall, which delves into familial angst with a monologue-style narrative, and Eskery's Only Sound Remains, a poignant tale of Iranian immigrants. The panelists express mixed feelings about the list's accessibility and emotional resonance, with some finding the works challenging yet rewarding. Wright's Praiseworthy is seen as a frontrunner, praised for its ambitious scope and literary merit, though its dense and challenging nature may not appeal to all readers. The discussion underscores the shortlist's reflection of contemporary Australian life, moving beyond traditional Anglo narratives to include diverse voices and stories of exile and resilience. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
We flow, we like a river, stocks to rise and sometimes shiver. Economy goes up and down. In this game, we wear the crown. Startups popping like the news. Crypto fashion, headline views. Diversify your gains of play. Ride the wave, don't miss the day. Markets moving, never still. Cash in hand, it gives a thrill. Fortunes made and fortunes lost. Pay the price, no matter the cost. Traders hustling 9 to 5. In the numbers, we all thrive. Interest rates, they steal the show. Up and down, they always go. Recession tales, inflation tales. Smooth and rocky market trails. Bears and bulls, they lead the dance. Every move a risky chance. Markets